All right, everybody, let's do it. I'm bringing you something today that, while specific to Utah real estate, you should use this as an example of something to ask about in your local market. So if you're in Dallas, I would recommend asking about stuff like this. In the event you don't live in Utah, just understand things like this exist outside of Utah, and it pertains to active duty and military vets and members of the law enforcement community. Before we get into that, hey, if you guys want to subscribe to the channel, that would be great. You can drop us a comment, or if you need real estate help, go to 1911syndicate.com. I'm making this video because this is primarily the clientele that we work with. I am in Utah, but we work with people in Dallas and Vegas and all over the place. So really, when in doubt, just send us a message to the site. We'll see if we can help you out. So here's what this is. It's very, very simple. There are oftentimes grants that exist to assist people from the military and law enforcement communities in buying a home, typically in regards to their first home. You have, at least within the military world, you have, at the end of the day, a built-in benefit called the VA loan, which you can use to buy a house without a down payment. But in addition to that, oftentimes you have closing costs and different things attached to it. So let me just give you a couple of grants here. At the time of this video, which is early March, there are currently 76 of these grants left in the state of Utah. This is the military grant, then we'll talk about the law enforcement one. This one is relatively straightforward, and I'm just going to hit you with a couple quick bullet points on each. So this is for members of the military or vets who separated in the last 5 years and are a first-time Utah home buyer. So if you're buying, you've bought a couple other houses in Utah before, this no longer applies to you. This was approved by the Utah legislature, just so you understand. This wasn't like, what scam is this? It's like, no, it's the Utah government. And basically eligible vets could receive, it says up to, but $2,500 in cash. That's not in the form of, they actually just stroke you a check for $2,500. Basically, they give you $2,500 that you can use towards your, usually it comes with a couple terms. So here we go. Down payment, closing costs, a rate buy down. That means, hey, if your interest rate was going to be whatever 6%, you can use that $2,500 to preemptively buy down your interest rate. So say, well, I'm going to give you a $2,500 to buy down the rate, and that might take your interest rate down to, I'm just talking out my ass here, but whatever, 5.7%, so that your monthly payment is lower because you threw some cash in order to get it lower. That's what a rate buy down is in layman's terms. And you could use it to help pay off some personal debt to help you qualify for the home loan. That one's pretty cool, and that one's actually surprising. So there's 76 of those currently. On the law enforcement side, there's actually 234 of these that are currently available. So this is members of the law enforcement community and also correctional officers. So if you work at like a state jail or even, I would imagine, prison, you should qualify, but obviously they'll have to vet you just to make sure you qualify. This one is a really good grant. So it says up to 3.5% of the purchase price, or $25,000, whichever one is less. So if we use a little bit of rough math, let's see, 3.5% of 100,000 is 3,500. So let's just take it up to $300,000 purchase price. You go, that's about 10 grand. If we took it up to $500,000, you're looking at somewhere around $16,000, $17,000. So chances are the 3.5% of the purchase price will be less than the $25,000. So that is what you will get. Regardless, quite a chunk of cash. That one's amazing. There's no repayment. There's no interest owed on it, right? Because it's a grant, right? It's basically like, hey, not free money. There's no such thing as free money, but I think you guys get what I mean. So forgivable down payment, you can use it obviously for down payment. Closing costs must be full-time LEO or corrections officer, and you must be a first-time home buyer in the state of Utah. If you're relocating from out of state, then you automatically are, basically good to go, even if this is not your first time buying a home, as long as it's your first time in Utah. Must be owner occupied, aka it can't be an investment property. Although when I was reading some of the small print, it looked like it could be for like a duplex or a twin if you were going to live in one side and then potentially rent out the other. We'd have to look into that, but just so you got a sense for it, it looks like you could use it for some sort of a hybrid investment property as long as it is owner occupied by you. At least in part. And this one was notable. The grants have to be issued through an approved loan officer that works with Utah Housing. And Tony wrote, like myself. That's great. So this was sent to me by a local loan officer. Shout out to Tony who works with us and has worked with some of you who would have seen these videos. So anyway, regardless if you live in Utah, take the message as being the important part, not the actual necessary loan or the grant itself. Because again, if you live in whatever state, hey, ask about this kind of stuff because these things may be available to you. They may not, but they may, right? And you don't know unless you look into it and see, hey, are there any available grants that someone like me could use? So highly recommend you guys do that. Again, if you need real estate help, let us know, 1911syndicate.com. We appreciate you tuning in. Chime in if you ever got any comments. Sometimes the comments produce a good question that we'll just use to do a dedicated video on. So hope you guys are doing good. Talk to you next time.